Yes, good morning. It's September 21st. These are the last two meetings, or 2 weeks of the month, so they're, yeah. So, today present are Public Works Director Troy Kruger, Electrical Superintendent Curtis Hawkinson, Finance Officer Chandra Phillips, and myself. Gentlemen, we have a couple of exhibits, a couple stories maybe to tell about a fire. And
Yeah, well, we'll dive right
we'll roll.
into it. So we've learned, done some learning over the last. We had our engineers here like 6 weeks ago, and we did a facility walkthrough out at the Wappa substation. Kurt mailed off our contract with Wappa to DGR prior to that meeting, and then in light of all the activities out at the Wappa substation, he's been in communication with some of Wappa's, some of their substation personnel out there. We did notice when we were out there that was assumed to be Rosebud Electric's transformer had an oil leak, and we saw that when we were out there. So anyways, this is what we knew that we had a transformer out there. That's the City of Winters. That was thought to be, that was bought by the City of Winter way back in '64 or something like that.
84.
We share that with Wappa. We have 77.5% or something like that, and Wappa actually retains a little bit of capacity in that transformer. What we didn't know was that the second transformer is actually 66% Winters and 33% Rosebuds. And we have 100% repairs and maintenance on both transformers. So, if you look at Exhibit A2, and at the bottom of the page, it's 2.1.2.1. In 1970, Western, at the Winter and Rosebud expense, installed a blah blah transformer KY2A in Western's Winter substation. Transformer KY2A is jointly owned by Winter and Rosebud. The cost of the transformer were shared by Winter, paying 66.5%, and Rosebud paying 33.5%. Then if you go to the second page and you go to the very bottom of the page, it gives you location, Winter, Western substation, MRM, which is repairs and maintenance, responsibility 100% Winter. We did not know that. So that oil leak that's on that substation, the repairs and maintenance is on that, is, according to this contract, is 100% on Winter. If you look at Exhibit A, on the other sheet that I handed you, the same 2.1.2.1 in 1984. What?
Unknown caller.
In 1984, Western at Winter's expense installed a blah 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 transformer KY1A in Western's Winter substation. Transformer KY1A is owned by Winter. Western, except for the replacement of the transformer due to the load growth, will share in total cost of MRM of said transformer. 7.5 MVA bears into total capacity of the new transformer installed in the Winter substation. 33.3 MVA Winter shall hold 77.5% capacity rights in the transformer. KY1A, which is 25.8 MVA, and Western shall hold 22.5% capacity rights in transformer KY1A, which is 7.5 MVA. Now, if you go to the second sheet, all the way to the bottom, MREM cost, responsibility 100% winner. So, we knew about this one. We did not know that we had 66% of the, that we put forth 66.5% of the cost for the second transformer, which is operated by, we don't have any load on that transformer. That's 100%, or it's being used by Rosebud Electric. But we have to acquire the maintenance cost on it, which is 100%. That oil leak that is on there.
Unknown caller.
Destroy. Okay, can I call you back? I'm in, yep, can I call you back? I'm in the middle of a meeting right now. Okay, thank you. So talking to WAPA's substation guy, he's saying that the cost of the oil leak fix is going to be around $100,000. We don't know any exact cost yet, and we don't know the exact date that they're going to do it. But we will have to incur that cost. Which, it was good news and bad news. It was good news in light of, I always wondered what we were going to do if our transformer went down. Because it was always assumed that Rosebud had one transformer and the city of Winter had the other transformer. I was never told any different. I did not know that we owned 66% of that other transformer. And this doesn't even say that it says that what we paid 66.5% of the cost to buy the transformer. I don't know, this, when you read through this, it doesn't.
That 2.141, it says that recurring MRM performed by Westernet Winter Rosebud shared expense shall consist of 66.5 for the three-phase transformer, and then we also own 2 circuit switchers out there. And so, and that falls underneath that MRM cost too, where our main transformer, yeah, we're 100% liable to that, but with that 66.5% of shall consist of that on it, that, I don't know if with the legal jargon on it, it doesn't sound like, you know, it'd be liable to 66.5 on it, but that's what our capacity rates are on the transformer itself too. So we can have 8.3 megs basically put on that transformer at any given time, which we talked to Rosebud, and they're going to be nice enough. If wintertime, we wouldn't be able to put a full load on it. A lot of the summertime, we wouldn't be able to put a full load on it. And they have the ability to backfeed their portion out and shed that load, and we can pick it up. The transformer itself is just big enough for our winter peak. So that's what I would say an engineer would probably, if we were to buy one today, DGNR would probably tell us to, get a 15 meg transformer out there so you'd have enough room for your winter peak. You're gonna have to go off of your top load consumption, have some room in there and stuff like that, where this is about it. And they're willing to shed it if we had to and stuff like that. So kind of the way it would be sitting, we would probably have about 2/3 of the town, 66.5% coming back on there. And that was kind of the things that, yeah, it's good that we got some of that, but it was kind of weird with the contract of how much winter I don't know, it just didn't look that great of a contract.
Does not.
Unless it was something going on at that time where it was a good deal, but looking back at it, 30, or I guess 50 years later, it's not looking the best for us. And even the one that we mainly use on there with WAPA having 25% or 22.5%, I'm like, why would they want that unless, I don't know. You don't know unless somebody can tell us what they were thinking back in the day, so, with it, but that,
I'm guessing that's what we pay for the backup.
yeah.
You know, I mean, we do have that, we do have that. And Kurt and I went down, but we sat with Rosebud Electric and their guys and just make sure that they were interpreting this contract same way we were interpreting it, and they're interpreting it the same way we are. So,
Yeah.
but
They were
if it
willing.
ever happened that our transformer went down, it is possible to feed Winter off of that other transformer. Rosebud Electric would have to, they'd have to do some stuff on their side, but if they would work with us, that is a backup for us. So that's the good news. In light of all this other stuff, we do kind of have a backup. It's not a real clear backup, but it is a backup. And we have talked to WAPA people about that and how that would go if that ever did happen. And Kurt's actually been through some of those training classes, and it's kind of they would walk him through it step by step and how to switch over from our transformer to that transformer. And so he actually has had some training on that.
All of our guys have.
All
It's
of
WAPA, switchman training, all linemen in South Dakota that deal with WAPA get the training, so we're all able to do it and everything like that, so.
This contract was, I found the renewal date, and it was July of 2015 is when this was re-signed. I don't recall who the mayor was,
Keeses.
but that's when this got re-signed, and I can't find
What date? May?
it was like July 15th,
No.
July of 2015.
Well, would have been, wouldn't have been. No, Frank was 16, 17. This is Keese's.
But I can't find anywhere in our current contract how long this contract goes for. Other than I found that we are out to, like, with our current contract, just our overall contract with WAPA is like 2054. So we've got like another 30 years on that.
So, I heard a couple things. I heard 100,000, and I heard 15 meg. What's the current capacity of the transformer that went down? Is it 10 or 12?
The one that we share with Rosebud,
Right.
that has 12.5 meg on it. The one that we have here, I think it's a 33 meg. Like the one that we mainly use is a 33 meg.
That's not the one that was damaged. It was the 12.5.
Yeah, the one that's damaged is a 12.5. I think the way it looked, this contract was signed back in 1970, the one that we share with Rosebud.
The original?
Yeah, it said in 1970, Western and Winter and Rosebud, installed this 12.5 meg transformer. So, I mean, that's 54 years, roughly 53 years, I guess now that's probably how old that transformer is on there. The 100,000 thing. So when I was out there with the substation foreman for the area for WAPA, that's what he was talking about. And we were talking about the fire that was out there, and that's when he told me that he's really busy, and he said he was going to forward the emails, and he hasn't got around to it yet. It sounded like me, don't quote me on it, but it was he had what they would charge to do it, and then I think he went out and got a couple other quotes from private companies, and that's kind of what he said to me with it. I haven't seen anything, so I can't really say anything for truth or whatever, but that's what he kind of figured around. He's tried, like, there was multiple leaks on there, and he got one of them kind of stopped, got one of them slowed down on there, but still leaking on it. And everything. So,
Did I hear you say that we could go to a 15 meg, that there might be one out there?
well, no, but I would say like if we were to buy one, you know, to
Size it up.
you know, like if we built another substation for the town just for us and not like have Rosebud, I would say like DGNR would suggest like, well, get like a 15 meg. I don't know what size, like they don't, I don't think you can build them kind of custom to what you actually need. You know, there's set sizes in there that they build them, but that's what they would probably suggest, you know, somewhere. This one would seem to me would be kind of light. There wouldn't be, I think last year our winter peak was like 11.4 megs, so that would only give you about a meg of expansion. And then it's like, well, you're spending all this money, what if in another business or something comes in, you're gonna want to buy some so you have some capacity room in there. That's just kind of what I would say. We talked a little shop when we were out there, and to get one of these transformers is
That's what I was gonna ask.
it didn't sound good, because he was talking about some of the ones that, obviously bigger ones, but it's gonna be about the same timeline because they're coming from same companies, you know, type of a deal. And yeah, 3 to 5 years, stuff like that.
What do we do for the 3 to 5 years until then?
Well, I mean, they can, like this, they're able to fix them. One of the good things about this situation, we can get in there and we can do a lot for that main transformer that we have. We'll be able to shed. Now we know that we could put load onto that other one.
Right.
And we could get some kind of talk with the engineers and even talk with WAPA. The way that MRM thing, it sounds like WAPA does the maintenance replacement modification on there. So we're kind of giving WAPA, what was it, roughly $3,500 a year to maintain it, you know, if we need to switch it off and do a few other things, and you know, to maintain it better. You know, we can do that now. Before, we didn't know. we had that option, you know. It was, if we go down on it, the town's dark, well, now we'll be able to keep the lights on. I don't know, I talked to Troy about it. He's more optimistic about me. I was a little more pessimistic about it. He was glass half full and I'm glass half empty on it. I said, yeah, it's good, but I'm like, the only thing that's bad about it is like when WAPA has to do maintenance on the stuff that feeds these transformers, you know, then they're shutting the tubs down. Or if you had one on like the north side of town, we just backfeed everything and we keep the lights on. We can shut it down for them. They can do it. So that's where I'm coming from on there. But I mean, all things considering, it's good to have it. It's good to know that we have it, you know, too, in case. That was something I kind of circled on the map. I said, this is our Achilles heel for our electric system right there, and showed them. And I said, this is kind of one of the things that gives us a little bit more of a shield on it. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but it's better than nothing, that's for sure, on there. So
Years ago, didn't we have a second transformer down by the old water department?
there's an old substation down there.
Yeah.
And that was a different system voltage. That was a 2400 system voltage, and we got a 7200 12470 system voltage in town now. So I don't know, I'd have to ask Ty when they switched it all over. I think it was kind of right when he first started, within a couple of years, and they changed the system voltage in the town. And he said they only had the downtown area was at that voltage at the time when he got here. So yeah, I mean, we talked about it. I said, I think that would be, you know, the one thing that we talked about too is we'd have to have a 115 line on there, and that's what feeds the high side on these transformers. We don't know the numbers, but Rosebud said that they think like a tap of that's what comes in off of WAPA's. It's a 115,000 volts. A tap like that, they told us, was like $1 million.
Yeah.
Just a tap off.
My next question was gonna be how much to build one of those.
And
So
that's
we're
just
starting
the
at $1
tap.
million.
Now you got to build line, and they kind of, what was it, $125,000 or $250,000 for a quarter-mile line, you know, and stuff like that. So I mean, I kind of figured it'd be about $7 to $10 million to build another sub north of town. Would probably be roughly right around there. Don't quote me on that too, by the way. EG&R could probably spit a pretty decent number off to us on it with, now it'd probably be having a transformer and all that kind of said and done, then have the 115 line. So then I don't, like with that WAPA tap, we don't know if that has, if it's went up and all that good stuff too, you know. So, but that's kind of where we're at. Like them interruptible switches too, they're expensive. Too, if something like one of those they're a gas filled switch. There's not maintenance on them. Really, there's a dial gauge on them that say if they have gas in them, you can fill them, but they're leaking bad on them. It's not like you can go plug them or anything like that. And when they go, as they'll stay in there. But if somebody was to go down and switch them, you're gonna have a pretty good ball of fire, like a really, really good ball of fire with them. So they're not cheap. Probably, I'd say right around $250,000 for those two. And we own one and we own 66.5 of another one on there. So
What is the repair gonna cost on this one out there?
yeah, that's what he kind of said was gonna be around 100,000.
That's just the repair.
That would be the repair on it. Yeah.
Are you talking for the transformer or from the fire?
From the fire.
Oh, the fire, that's
we
all
don't know.
WAPA's.
We don't
That's-
know that.
That's all WAPA's.
Yeah.
But our transformer was damaged in that.
No,
No.
no.
This
was
has been something
before.
that's been it's that transformer's been leaking oil for months and months and months.
This is that one we looked at that day when we were out there with the
Yeah.
engineers and they said it
Yeah.
was leaking and we laughed and said, thank God that's not
Yeah,
ours.
and then that's what spurred the conversation, because they said they seen some sort of metering in there for the tie. And
Yeah.
that's when we didn't know anything really about that. And then we were able to compile the information and send it off to them, and we found out that we own it, I guess.
I don't
on there.
ever remember, the weird part is I don't ever remember paying it. When we talked to Rosebud Electric, they said WAPA does their repairs on their substations. I know I've never signed a PO for a repair for that substation to WAPA.
So one-time annual fee.
Yeah,
There was one time when I was on council years ago, back in like between 15 and 18, they came out and did a repair. There was one time
and we paid it.
and we paid it.
Was it on our transformer or was it on I mean, that's,
Boy, Troy, I didn't understand anything back then.
So this fee we pay every year, and
Yeah,
it's for them
this
to come
is-
in and inspect it.
But we had a repair that was
Correction
done.
fee, yeah.
I know Ty had talked about that they were out there one time with the WAPA thing. I can't remember what he said, why, and everything like that. So there might have, definitely could have been some sort of repair, yeah, and then,
That's the window, 15 to 18,
yeah.
somewhere in that range. There was one that was done.
I know that every year when it comes through, because it comes through on a separate invoice, they always ask, what is this for? And they send a contract, and this is a contract that we have with the city, that you'll pay this amount every year, and
That, I asked Rosebud about that as far as like the maintenance on them. You know, I asked, like, we went out there and we did an oil sample on the transformer. It was this year, kind of early springtime. And I had never found anything on the computer of receiving any sort of information like, hey, we're doing yearly oil samples and everything like that. Everything's good, you know, I don't know. And I was gonna talk to that substation foreman and,
See if there's a history.
yeah, and stuff like that, and then ask him, like, the test was like $125. So you're not talking, you know, an obscene amount for this oil sample test, but if they're doing that, obviously we wouldn't have to keep doing it and everything like that. So, and I'm assuming that they do it. So I was just, what do you guys do for this maintenance thing? You know, every year, you know, do we get a record like, hey, this is the checks that we go through? And it sounded like Rosebud had been getting them. He said I never look at them. He said, oh, they'll tell me, you know, if something's wrong or something like that. And like, yeah, I get that. I hadn't seen anything on the computer or anything like that, and it would have been nice to know. It wouldn't have took me a year to start asking.
It's gone to an old email.
Could be too with it. So
The other thing is, I called WAPA this week and I requested a meeting with them because the transformer isn't the only equipment we own out there. There is other equipment out there at the substation that goes along with that we're responsible for, so.
We'd like to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to know exactly what it is. And
Right.
we need to know. And the other thing I guess I would question is, what role MRES plays in this? You know, like, is this information going through MRES or, cause MRES does 100%. They take care of our billing. They submit a bill to WAPA for us every month. And so I don't know if this repair, if this gets billed directly to the city of Winter, or if it goes through MRES,
And
or,
it comes from WAPA, it does not come from MRES.
well, I'd like to know that. I'd like them to tell us that, and then in the future, you know, like Kurt said, these maintenance records, maybe MRES is getting them on our behalf. They're not coming to us. I don't know where they're going. Maybe we never requested them, but I agree 100% with Kurt. We should be able to have those and, you know that at least know that it's being done and what the results are. And
Unknown caller.
and I know I think they are doing something, because when I talked to the first time I met that WAPA guy, he said, oh, you know, he brought that oil leak up to me, and I'm like, oh, that's Rosebud's, you know, I didn't know anything about this, and it says on the one line Rosebud's transformer and everything, and he's like, well, you guys are, I think we're like K1A2 as far as their WAPA switching labels, and I said, yeah. And he's like, oh, that's a good transformer. He said, we haven't had any problems with stuff. So he kind of made it that they do some checking and everything like that on it, but don't know.
KY.
Yeah.
1A.
Yeah.
KY 2A.
And
and then, I guess in light of all this, I think, you know, I don't think we need to do anything special. Like I said, we don't know exactly when this repair is gonna take place, if they're gonna bill us this year or bill us next year. We're getting pretty late in the year now. You know, with all the other stuff they have going on out there, just to get that sub back up to 100%. I don't know if they're gonna get to this oil leak fix, when they're gonna get to it, so. But I mean, if they do, his budget can support it. I don't think we have to do anything drastic there to move money around or anything he does have some, I mean, and Kurt can tell you what he plans on. He's gonna order some materials this fall. You and I kinda talked about them the other day.
I already spent another $22,000 on boxes on them and everything like that, so I got those coming, just kind of replacing some of the stuff that we're using from the projects that we have. Kind of got Todd, the last supervisor, he did a good job having a lot of stuff stocked up, and kind of depleted it to a point where I think it's more manageable to have this much, you know, on and everything like that. So I got enough. I'll have to probably order wire, and that'll be pretty spendy. We're looking about $7,000 a reel is what they quote me. About $3.50, I think, a foot.
Spendy to the general public, but in terms of what electrical department expenses are, that's cheap.
Yeah, that's went up, I think, well, I think you used to be able to buy it for $1.79 a foot. Now it's $3.50 a foot, so it's went up quite a bit.
100%.
But I mean, that's One of the other things that I gotta buy, I got enough in my budget to do that, and then these boxes, cause that'll replace all the other stuff that we've been taking out of inventory for the projects and switching them that way, so.
Let's go back to the idea of a north substation. Is there financing available, Chandra? Are there government funds available to build a substation on the north side?
Yeah.
Let's let DGR get a number for us.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a lot.
but if there's funding available and that's something that you feel that the city needs,
It's
I'd be
something-
curious to know, like Chamberlain, Wagner, like-sized communities of us, do they have?
Well, Chamberlain's Northwestern Energy, so they'll.
But I mean, do they have multiple feeds? I mean.
Yeah, and Northwestern would have multiple feeds into their towns and stuff, you know. Like Miller, they got 2 substations.
Miller has 2 feeds?
Yeah, so they got on that,
northwest and,
like the town of, Miller, I don't know how it's set up, but I know that when I talked to their electric supervisor, he said they have 2 substations there. Yeah, I don't, I'm trying to think, like Aurora up there by Brookings, we took care of them when I was up there. They didn't have one, but they had, I don't, when I first got there, they were kind of set up the way Winter was. They were in a WAPA sub, and then they built one, I'm talking like from that wall to that wall away from it, and built their own substation. I don't know why, but they had a tap from the co-op to come in there at one point in time, where the co-op would be able to backfeed that, you know, a town that size, I don't.
yeah, that co-op's big up there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a real big one, and they got money, you know, they're right around Sioux Falls, you know, Brookings, so it's growing and stuff like that. I don't know, I know Volga, they had 1 substation for sure, I think they might have had 2, you know, that's kind of a like-sized town. Beersford, I think they have 2, kind of a like-sized town, you know, with it. Brookings, yeah, we had 8 substations, so we could pick up, and it was set up so we could pick one up. I mean, 2 goes down, we were in that situation one time, possibly we were gonna have 2 down, and they weren't able to pick up 2 off of the way they were.
The other 6 couldn't pick up those 2.
What's that?
The other
others-
6
No,
couldn't
with the
handle
load
it.
they had.
I wonder what Mission has.
What's that?
I'd be curious what Mission has. You know, Mission's kind of set up the way we are. They're out here in West River, and
Yeah,
they're kind of a like-sized town, and I'd be curious to know what they have. If
That's-
they have a backup, and
that's fed by Cherry Todd, so I think they'd be kind of set up kind of like Rosebud. You know, I guess we never asked, you know, Vic where he's feeding it from, but I know they have like that Witten sub, and then they had one down in Colombe, so they might have to split the load, but, you know, be able to pick it up on there. I mean,
yeah. Once again, we are the odd duck out. But you know, in light of all this conversation that Kurt and I have been having over the last couple of days, just kind of comes from, you know, of the what if scenarios. So the what if a tornado went through that substation?
and that's what.
That would be, you know,
That's kind of, you know, when I was talking to Troy about, you know, all of our feeds to the town are running from there up into town. You know, you have a tornado or a straight line wind that kind of takes through there. You know, you had one in the substation, if you had a substation north of town, if they both got wrecked, the town has a lot more problems than needing electricity at that time. I'm
Yeah, that's a
gonna
big one.
say, but you know, if you had straight line winds or something that are kind of more directional, they came through the south part or whatever, you know, we're talking, we might have all of our feeders laying on the ground out there. We got 3 of them right there with, you know, 2 miles of line times 3, 6 miles of line down on there, where we've got to get that rebuilt, where if we had this other one, yeah, it might have knocked over a pole or 2, or have to do some short-term maintenance and get the town back up, and then worry about fixing that. You know, with that much line down on the ground, we would we'd obviously have to call in help, you know, it's like, I would think at that point, you know, like Rosebud would be in the same boat with some portion of their system, and, you know, who do we call? I mentioned it at that Dre show last year, you know, talking with my old coworkers. They got into it with their 115 line. It was ran parallel with the town. It took their 115 lines out, so they couldn't feed the town on some of it. And
So when that tornado went through Burke, did they, and they own their own electrical department, but Rosebud Electric
Helps them.
operates it for them, is my understanding, correct?
Yeah,
It's all their lines and stuff, but pretty much REA operates it. Burke, did they have that second substation when that tornado went through town over there?
I don't think they lost any, I mean, they had building damage, and they had some structural damage, but they didn't have a whole lot of lines that went down. I don't think they had a whole lot of
I don't know.
electrical problems.
I'm assuming that they probably have, you know, a loop in the town, you know, and stuff, and that's
Backfed the other way?
yeah, you know, and that's what going forward right now, you know, when we do underground, we're putting everything in loops because that's what you need to do for
That 115 line, is it able to go underground?
no.
No, okay, no.
On there.
Yeah, that's what we had that discussion, and, I
Yeah.
mean, we have a straight line from our sub, the same one that goes past McDonald's. And and Kurt was saying how we'd probably do
a double
those would
circuit.
probably be like 65-foot, minimum 65-foot poles, and then you do it in a top layer and a second layer, and to feed that other substation, and that would be, yeah, I can't go underground.
Yeah, so I talked, and Rosebud has their own 115 line, and I asked, did you guys maintain it yourselves, and they do. And, you know, we had it up in Brookings, but we had, I think our smallest pole was a 65 footer. We had some 95 footers out there, so we didn't have trucks that could reach it. And you can't really work them off the pole, you know, we'd have to buy like Baker boards and stuff like that, and we don't have any experience really with that. you
Sure.
know. It's kind of a transmission lineman then, and he says that they were like at their tallest pole was kind of a 65 footer, like the most of them were 65 footers, which with that new bucket truck we're getting, we'd be able to reach them, and we'd be able to work it then, you know, on it. So I know Beersford, they have their own one, and they built a special truck for themselves, like an 85-foot bucket truck, so they could work theirs where, you know, and that was their talk, like up in Brookings, to have something like that, but it sits around, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and stuff like that where, you know, it's not feasible to have something like that. And I think when I talked to their supervisor, he's a salesman now. At that time, he's probably been out of it for 5-6 years, and it was like a $325,000 truck at that time, and it's probably doubled that now, so. it's-
Would almost take an association of communities that shared it.
Yeah, so I don't.
Can communities do that?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out this thing that's bothering me. What was your question?
Well, you talk about a 85-foot truck, can an association of communities go together and buy it and have joint ownership?
Council creates a resolution and enters into a contract with them.
I'm talking
Sure.
about state code and,
Yeah, I mean, you have to have a contract and then resolution stating that this is what it's for, and potentially someone who is in charge of it, and who's paying for it, or is it like a buy-in for it? There'd just be a lot of different things you have to do legally, but I would assume, yeah, that would be a thing.
I guess they kinda did it here with that transformer.
Right.
Same different thing, I guess, on there, bought it half.
well, you guys have,
We've
100,000.
been talking about a lot of what ifs.
Yeah.
you have to. I'm glad to hear that.
It's, I mean, you're probably same thing with water or whatever. There's always a chink in your armor when it comes to this. Like, sometimes there's nothing you can do but trying to nail down some of these things. What can we do so we can make our armor a little bit more stronger, and that's kind of where we're trying to focus on and stuff like that. And I would think DGNR could give us a ballpark area, and I think it would be something definitely to, if we gotta start pigeonhole, it doesn't need to happen tomorrow, no, but if it's gotta be start pigeonhole for something like that, it wouldn't be a bad idea to start thinking about that with it, because, yeah, you know, anytime, we're kind of at the mercy of WAPA, you know, they've been pretty good as far as trying to work with us, you know, if they do have to go down on the sub, but it'd be nice where, just, yeah, we can do whenever you want, and backfeed everything.
One of the, you know, always kind of in the back of my head, one of my major concerns is when we have some facilities in town that don't have backup generation. You know, a couple of our nursing homes and the hospital does now, but that's, you know, that's something that always bothers me, you know. We get back up as quickly as we can because those facilities don't have backup generation.
Yeah.
That's, you know, that's something that's kind of on, you know, that's our responsibility to get back up and going as quickly as we can. But then again, we're not that big of a community that we have a lot of that kind of stuff or big industry or anything like that. But it's the 100-year storm. What if? But when you need it, you need it. And you can't be, I mean, it gets to be a pretty big, you know, it happens too. I mean, didn't it happen in Chamberlain a couple years ago? They were down for like 2 days. I know,
Good.
you know, that's kind of stuff happens, so. I guess going forward, Kurt's, by the end of the year, he's gonna finish up boring and that over in the Renton Addition area in Tripp Avenue, and then you said you're gonna change out a bunch of light poles, or a bunch
Yeah.
of power poles in the
From about
7th Street area?
7th Street from Main to Lamro, we're gonna change all those poles out. Hopefully, the winter storms will not come as early this year on it, so we can get that stuff done. That was kind of the plan last year, but then we got 3 foot of snow and it stuck around for most of the year, so it was kind of tough and we were fixing stuff, but that was kind of our plan. Basically, we're bored all the way through, down Plum, down the north side of Tripp, and then we just gotta do kind of finish up the back half of the south side of Tripp. They were pulling wire yesterday. We gotta do some cutovers, so we gotta get wire pulled before we can get some of these cutovers. So we're gonna try to finish Plum and get that cut over before we do the next portion of bore type of a deal. So we gotta do that, and then we'll wreck it out once we, during the winter time, you know, it'd be good winter work for us to do.
Take some
Kinda wreck-
overhead down,
Yeah.
change some poles, and it snowed in Colorado and New Mexico the last
Yeah,
couple days, so.
Yeah,
The payment itself goes to the U.S. Department of Energy,
Oh, yeah.
Which would be WAPA.
so that's where the payment goes. Last year it was November of '22, so it's usually around the end of the year that we send it every year. And it's for those exact two amounts.
Yeah.
That hasn't gone up each year.
Do you have a meeting set up with MRES, like, first part of next month, and we're gonna talk about, solar energy, or people that are doing their own generation? I talked to them, and actually MRES is required by law to buy it back. So, talked a little bit about how that, MRES doesn't have their handbook 100% completed yet for South Dakota. So
In South Dakota, they're not required to.
they are.
As of when?
I don't know that date, but they are required to buy it back.
Last year they were not, so unless it was legislation this year, they're not.
They're actually required to buy it back right now at 4.4 cents per kWh. And next year, the estimated cost is like, it's gonna go down, it's like 3.6, she told me. So, she and that's, I mean, I included the finance officer on that meeting whenever I find out what it is, cause they're gonna go over how that gets billed out. She said we would, this is just over the phone conversation, but we would bill them for full utility cost. And then we would read the meter back, so we would know what they put back out. And then we would send that information to MRES, and MRES actually pays the customer. That's the way I understood it.
That's okay.
So that's coming, and we're working on the metering side of it. We've got 3 customers out there that currently have solar systems, and
So our meters will be capable to see how much they push out, how much they're using and all that type of thing. We gotta reprogram them, those. That was one of the things that they brought up as we were doing this thing, you know, for that solar stuff. So we said, yeah, we want that, because I have a feeling that sooner or later South Dakota, if they don't already, they're gonna start to require it. So it's like, well, we might as well have it out there already, so we'll be able to do that on there. And I suppose, you know, they wanna be able to see how much it's actually paying for itself and everything like that too, so we'll have it. That's something that we're working on with the meters right now, is we're reprogramming them to kind of get the stuff that we really want for the data and everything like that, so kind of what information they're holding, what, and everything like that, so.
yeah, that brings up a lot of interesting questions.
Does. A lot of them.
That's all I got.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Right.
Oh, the stoplight. I guess today we're gonna go, Ray and I gotta make a call to Traffic Solutions, and we're gonna go through the cabinet and test as much equipment as we can, so we can try and get a good account of what's working and what's not. But we do know the cabinet's on order. It's gonna be a total replacement of that box, control box, and we're not gonna see it anytime soon. 60 days. That's just the electrical world these days.